a mud race in Vermont. Good old Yankee craftsmanship is in no short supply on the Midway, where you'll also find plenty of Ben & Jerry's ice cream and maple syrup. But this Jamboree's distinct flavor will come from a double scoop serving of Essex Junction mud, as we tease your appetite with a brand new season of side-by-side mud racing. This is Trucks and Tractor Power, featuring the best in NMRO mud racing. Today, it's the New England Four-Wheel Jamboree Nationals from the Champlain Valley Exposition in Essex Junction, Vermont. In motorsports, we love to come to a new racing venue, and this weekend we're in Essex Junction, Vermont. But Mother Nature has played her card. We've got a weather system moving overnight. We have had so much rain, it's forced a change in the racing format. Now, these blowing racing engines may love the high humidity and the moisture, but the officials don't. And here with more on that is Army Armstrong.
Gary, we've got a unique situation on our first Northeast visit, that being the lane choice. Over the night, there's been a tremendous weather front come through. It dumped a lot of water here. And what it's done is left us with a really outright good and bad lane scenario. Bad lane is this lane over here. A lot of the drivers do not like it. It's real muddy. It's real soupy. They don't like it. Remember, you got to have parity in any kind of sport. The good lane is this lane over here. So the track officials and the sanctioning body got together and said, okay, we're going to make 2 passes today. The quickest pass of the 2 is your official time. So everybody will have an opportunity to come out of the good lane. All they're trying to do is to give everybody the same even chance to win this thing. Back to you, Gary.
Well, of course, no one's spirits have been dampened by the weather, and just before the start of the competition, Army had these observations on the wet conditions.
Well, they always say there's a story within a story. Today I'm going to tell you about a race within a race. You know about the 180-foot pit they race for the national championships, but there's another race, the race to get stopped on the other end of the track. And today it's going to be kind of a unique situation because look how slippery this is, and there's nothing in the world any slicker than wet grass. So look for a lot of the drivers today to come out of the pit and throw the vehicle sideways and then burp the throttle to try to get them planted or to stop. If not, man, they could be sliding from here to Oklahoma City before this thing's over.
We take a look first at Jeremy Finley, who won the Class 5 competition here in Vermont. Now, he has drawn the bad lane for his first pass. He drives the S-Kicker.
You got to remember, the only difference between Class 5 and this class is the type of tires they're running. Speaking of running, this guy's a many-time national champion. Ron Pence will be in the lane that's been designated so far as the good lane. First shot out of both lanes. Let's see what kind of numbers we're going to be looking at, Gary.
Look at Finley walk the dog through the mud. It looked like a good run in both lanes. Finley at 252.
Yeah, but let's see what happened over in a good lane. The number comes up, 249. So already we've distinguished that we do have an advantage in one of the lanes, Gary.
Well, Tater with the slight advantage in that right lane. Let's take a look now at Ron Pence as he picks up the front end. A fairly straight run for Ron, but understand there was a problem on Finley's S-Kicker. Here's Army with that story.
Jeremy Finley cut a 252 on a real good run. The big scoopers grabbed, pulled the car up in the air, and he was making all kind of horsepower. Then something happened. The blower belt broke, and it took all the horsepower away. Normally, the blower belt goes right around here. There's an idler pulley here. The belt is completely gone. As soon as that blower belt went away, took all the horsepower away from him, and that's when he landed this puppy.
So he could have a lot faster run the next time in the good lane. As the competition continues, the far lane is Brian Mayetta in Foolish Pleasure. The near lane, Darren Tibbetts in Midnight Magic.
Tibbetts a hired gun in this 27 Roadster. Let's see how he can handle it.
Whoa, a problem right off the starting line. So we'll check the time for Mayetta, and it's a 286 out of the good lane, but not a very good run. So a frustrating day for Tibbetts. We're coming back with more from Vermont. Stay with us. Show and go. Hey, we're here in Essex Junction, Vermont, the New England Four-Wheel Jamboree Nationals side-by-side mud racing. What a showpiece right there in the show and shine area. good-looking Jeep. Look at the harness system and the bucket seats. Gary Reddick, the near lane, and the touch of madness. Now he'll go up against Chuck Noll in the stepchild.
Gary, something I'm noticing, Class 5 and Class 6 competition, the front tires and the rear tires, the only difference. What these guys are doing is running the Class 6 scoopers on the rear of the vehicle, and they're lightening the front end up and running the older or the slower type tire on the front. That is, see, all the goo and everything is working against them. What they're trying to do is what the S-Kicker did, is to get the back end planted and pull the front end literally out of the water, out of the mud, Gary.
Oh, looks like a rocket shot. Hang on, Chuck Noll gives himself a thrill in the shutdown lane that you talked about earlier. Look at that 2:43.
Whoa.
That is the new time to beat, a 2:43 for Chuck Noll, and Gary Reddick was out of bounds. He was DQ'd. The touch of madness went out of bounds, but what a run for the stepchild. Chuck Noll, a 2:43.
See how light the front end of the car is? That's why he can get this kind of a time. Now we got a problem.
Yeah.
Now's the time I would hand the ball to you.
You hand the ball to nobody because you're strapped in that cockpit by yourself, but Chuck Noll gets her stopped. He has to be happy he's with Army.
The 572 cubic inch Ford made the horsepower. The brakes made the stop, but this guy got the good ride for today. How did it feel to you out there for that long slide?
It was a rough ride, Army. The old girl took me for a ride, but the power was there, and we going with it.
What about the number? You think that'll hold for the day?
I'm hoping so. Hopefully it'll rut up more in that right-hand lane, and she'll stand.
As we take a look at Rodney Covington and the Mud Rat in the far lane. The near lane is our old buddy Fred Wilhite, Money Pit.
Now, Covington and Wilhite are two of the personalities of this sport. Both of them just literally, you know, they're like Harley riders. They live to ride and they ride to live, buddy. This is what it's all about. You're going to see some action here.
Time to beat a 2:43, looking right at him. There's Rodney, and there is Fred. Look at that wild ride that Fred had in the near lane. Covington a 250 in the good lane. Wilhite a 277, and man, he was like riding a Brock in the rodeo.
Cowboy up. Fred Wilhite in the left lane goes to 250. He'll be back. Let's see if they can. Oh, we got a problem. Looky here. We'll be keeping an eye on this. That's got a lot of problems.
Well, as we take a look now at Wilhite, now watch him pop that tire off the rim. He was bouncing all the way through there, and it's off the rim right there.
Yeah, completely collapsed that left front tire. That'll change the whole characteristics of that car.
Mike Camella is staging now in Bonkers. Now Mike will have a bye run. But first, I'd like to go down to the pit area and get some more information on that situation with Money Pit. Here's Army.
What you were looking at was the driver owner of the vehicle. What you're not looking at is a NASCAR type pit crew, but you are looking at a lot of friends trying to help out. Ron Pence went and got a floor jack. Gary Osteen goes over and grabs 2 new tires. Now what has happened here, you keep hearing the term, they blew the tires off. Well, that's exactly what happened. When the vehicle went out, the rear tires bit and it pulled the front end of the vehicle up. Then all of a sudden, bam, it slammed back down. You can see that it bent the aluminum wheel, blowing the tire off. That's the best example of blowing a tire off you're ever going to see in this world, because there's no question of what it means.
Well, there's a look once again at Mike Camella in Bonkers. Now he'll have a bye run. Again, the time to beat at 2:43.
One thing good about Mike, you didn't have to worry about washing the body.
A 2:45, ever so close. That would put him second on the leaderboard as Chuck Noll continues to lead at 2:43. Then it's Mike Camella, Ron Pence, Rodney Covington, and Jeremy Finley. Let's go down and visit with Mike Camella.
Well, if these dart heads making all the horsepower you can handle, son, that is the run you've been looking for ever since I've known you. That was an awesome run.
That was a real good run. Car hooked up right off the line. The starting line was horrible. Took me a few times to get it where I wanted it. I took it hard to the left. I couldn't even go any farther to the left. And all I wanted to do was just cut across so I could stay in bounds. Car went straight as can be. RPM'd a little bit, and boom, it was gone.
Kick back over here and look at he took the body off the car to make the run, but you got to love it to do it. That's why they call it mud racing.
Well, Army, we're now ready for the start of round 2. Brian Mayetta ran a 286 out of the good lane. He's in Foolish Pleasure. And Jeremy Finley had a 252 out of the bad lane. Now remember, he had a problem with that belt, so if he gets that blower belt to last a full run, he could have a good one.
Yeah, I think he can get the blower belt problem solved. The big question is the tire combination. Does he have the right tire on the front and the rear? You can see the different tread patterns right there.
Finley had a problem right away. A slow run for Finley. Let's check Brian's Foolish Pleasure, a 324, and Jeremy a 391. Those guys will not be happy with either one of those runs. Hey, I guess a mud race is as good a place as any to find a tow rope. We certainly need them here this afternoon. Welcome back to Essex Junction, Vermont. Tell them you spent a dog day afternoon at the mud races. Hey, Joey Valerial and Joey Quick taking on Chris Kane. Joey Quick in the near lane, and Chris Kane and Raisin Kane will be staging in the far lane. This is their second pass now. They had a chance earlier to run the mud. We want to take you back to earlier in the competition and show you what happened the first time these guys got together.
Yeah, in the first round, Joey was in the far lane, Chris was in the near lane, identical looking vehicles.
And the numbers on that first run, Joey Quick in a 274, and Chris Kane had a 280. So now they come back, they flip-flop lanes and see what they can come up with.
And this is going to be the barometer we've been looking for as to whether or not the times are going to change that drastically. Identically prepared cars, they're just swapped.
Looking at the numbers, it comes down to a 1/10 of a second different in the lanes. Joey Quick a 285, a 1/10 of a second slower in that lane, and Kane picks up about a 1/10 of a second at a 271 in the good lane. So just about a 1/10 of a second as the work continues down there on Money Pit with a lot of help from a lot of friends. Ron Pence trying to get the lug nut on there. And let's go back trackside and check in with Army Armstrong as the work continues.
Raisin Kane's made a shot out of both lanes. I asked the driver which was better, right or the left lane. This was his response.
Definitely the right lane.
Okay, now why?
Left lane's full of water. When you get in the water, your tires come up off of the surface and you just spin in the water. You lose all your traction.
Well, he puts it in layman's terms. We can all understand that as Chris looks on. The competition continues. Gary Reddick in Touch of Madness taking on Rodney Covington in the Mud Rat. Now, Reddick DQ'd against Chuck Noll in his first run, and Covington will try to best a 250 he turned in as he took on Fred Wilhite.
Well, the Touch of Madness, if you will, is in the Promised Land lane. That's the good one. Let's see what's going to happen over here with the Mud Rat. A lot of intensity right now. Both drivers know they've got their hands full.
Last chance to make a statement here this afternoon. There's your time to beat, 2:43. The Rat got out in a hurry, then got in trouble. Let's take a look at the numbers as they come up. Rodney with a 331.
Yeah, Gary, he backpedaled at half track.
And Gary had a 276.
He started slow and came on big on the other end. That's where the 76 came from.
Take a look now from the in-zone camera. You can clearly see the difference in both lanes. So let's go back trackside Army with Rodney Covington.
How did the run feel to you out there?
Oh, it hooked great, Army. About 3/4 out, it just hooked right, and I couldn't hold it. I had to back out of it.
Body language will tell you a whole lot.
Well, I guess so. As we get ready for Jimmy Carr's second pass, it appears to be a bye run. We want to take you back to his first pass. He went up against Paul Lukasiewicz in the Polish Express in the far lane. Not a bad run for Carr, a 281 out of the bad lane, but Lukasiewicz with a 258. Lukasiewicz was one of those not coming back for his second pass. So Jimmy Carr has a single bye run.
Carr had it on, he had it on kill and kicked a blower belt off, Gary. Another vehicle, another one of the big names losing the blower belt. see, as a matter of fact, you can see right now the front pulley going around, there's no belt on it. So that is a tough, tough break for a guy that could have been a player.
Update on the current standings. Chuck Noll will not come back for a second pass. He'll stand on 243, but interestingly enough, Mike Camella, who is second at 245, has passed on his second run in the good lane. Maybe mechanical problems. Let's take a look at some highlights. This is from Class 4. This is Robert Birdwin in his 66 Ford Bronco. A sloppy run in the near lane, a run that took 9 seconds. We saw Fred Wilhite blow his tires off in Class 6 competition. Steve Salvador does the same thing in Class 4, except it takes a little longer.
But it's more of a classic view of what it actually looks like. Look what happened here when he turned the corner. You see one tire off, and the other one's off too.
Well, the winner in Class 4 was Deuces Wild, the coupe of Jack Freeman out of the far lane. Jack ran a 386, and Army caught up with Jack after his run.
Congratulations on this Class 4 competition. That's a very tough class to win, isn't it?
Yes, it is. The times are real close, and it's very, very much competitive. The guys all run really tight.
Well, our congratulations to Jack Freeman on his championship. We're coming back with more in Class 6 competition. Stay with us here on Trucks and Tractor Power. Welcome back to the Champlain Valley Exposition and the Four-Wheel Jamboree New England Nationals. The Four-Wheel Jamborees are part of the Special Events Performance Series featuring a weekend of four-wheel fun. Check out the Manufacturer's Midway. There's also several categories of show and shine competition. Contact the Special Events Promotion Company to find out when a Jamboree will be near your area. Well, young and old sure have a great time at these Jamborees, and earlier in the Midway, Army came across this durable pair.
It's red and white, 235 cubic inches, driven every day, and has over 186,000 miles on it. But the unique thing about this vehicle that belongs to Herb Jason is Herb is 81 years old. He's an avid fisherman out of Massachusetts, and he's proven to us he's built Ford tough.
Yeah, but he's just sitting there watching the folks walk by as they head over to the concession stand, and yeah, you can't eat food like that and live to be 81 years old, I'm telling you, Army. Show you some Class 6 highlights, the naturally aspirated vehicles. Gary Plouffe in special occasions, and he took the long way around to get to the shutdown area.
He went about 300 feet to cover that 180 feet, didn't he?
The winning run in naturally aspirated class, Mike Zabella in Psychotic Seduction, the far lane. Bill Lee in the near lane, and Zabella's 319 topped for a non-supercharged engine. Fred Wilhite, our last competitor, has a bye run.
Fred Wilhite comes up not having any idea how this vehicle's going to react, Gary.
Big wheel stand with the lighter tires on the front. He turns in at 256 in what would be the good lane. But Wilhite with the lighter tires on the front really lifts the front end out of the mud, and he has a spectacular run at 256, and right now Army is cut up with Fred Wilhite.
As Fred's undoing his helmet, we're going to walk in here and tell him they do not give frequent flyer miles in this sport, but you do get a time of a 2.56.
Well, that wasn't good enough to win, but if you can't win, you got to be spectacular.
Spectacular you were. Congratulations to you.
Thank you, Army. Was that a big enough wheelie, Gary?
Fred always has a great attitude and a big smile no matter what happens. One last look at this wheel stand as Fred hauls the money pit down the mud, and that is spectacular here in Vermont. Let's take a look now at the final standings. Chuck Noll wins it at 243, stood up throughout the competition. Mike Camella second, then Ron Pence, Rodney Covington, Jeremy Finley, and here's Chuck.
Signs on a race car usually tell you a lot about the personality of the driver, but I'm going to give you some numbers. 243, good enough to take a win today in a real tough competition.
Yeah, Army, it's awesome. After we wrecked the car and put her back together and made her run these numbers, and this old Ford, she's doing it to it.
Now, she took you to a dance, didn't she?
Yeah, I had a good ride with her, but I kept her under control and she spun around.
Well, our congratulations to Chuck Noll, who wins it today with a 243. The championship belongs to Chuck Noll in Class 6 competition here in Vermont.
You know, Gary, this is the first time we've been in this far in the Northeast, and the folks up here have heard a lot about it.
The old girl did it.
The old girl did it, that's right. They've heard a lot about the sport, but today they got their first chance to see it, and none of them are leaving disappointed.
Well, despite the weather, the fans turned out, and guys like this, Fred Wilhite, Chuck Knoll, gave them their money's worth. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week. Now here's news and exciting video release from Diamond P Sports.